Writing. The sun had barely risen over the small village of Green Valley when four sisters stepped out of their tiny wooden cottage. Anna, Bella, Clara, and Daisy owned almost nothing. Their clothes were patched, their shoes were worn out, and the roof above their heads leaked whenever it rained. Yet every morning, they greeted the day with smiles because they believed that hope was more valuable than gold. After their parents passed away years earlier, the sisters had promised each other they would never separate, no matter how difficult life became. Their parents had left them only one lesson that they repeated every day: your greatest treasure is your character. Money can disappear, but honesty, kindness, and hard work will always create new opportunities. The sisters carried those words in their hearts. Anna, the eldest, worked on nearby farms, helping harvest vegetables and fruits. Bella repaired old clothes and stitched blankets for families in the village. Clara gathered firewood from the forest and sold it at the market. Daisy, the youngest, loved growing flowers and herbs, making beautiful bouquets that she hoped people would buy. Even after working from sunrise until sunset, they earned just enough to buy bread, rice, and vegetables. There were nights when they divided one loaf of bread into 4 equal pieces and laughed together as if they were enjoying a grand feast. One afternoon, a wealthy merchant rode through the village in a luxurious carriage. Seeing the sisters working under the hot sun, he shook his head. "You'll spend your entire lives working like this," he said. "People born poor stay poor. That is simply the way the world works." The sisters thanked him politely and continued with their work. After he left, Daisy looked worried. "Do you think he's right?" she asked quietly. Anna smiled. "No, our future is written by our choices, not by our circumstances." The next morning, while returning from the forest, Clara found an elderly traveler sitting beneath a tree. His clothes were dusty, and he looked exhausted. "Are you all right?" she asked. "I've been walking for days," the old man replied. "I'm thirsty and hungry." Without hesitation, Clara invited him home. The sisters gave the traveler their dinner even though it was all the food they had. Bella prepared warm tea while Daisy offered him the only blanket in the house. The old man looked around the tiny cottage. "You have so little," he said. "Why would you share everything with a stranger?" Bella smiled gently. "Our parents taught us that kindness costs nothing but is worth everything." The traveler stayed the night and left early the next morning, thanking them warmly. Before leaving, he said only one sentence: "Never stop believing that good hearts attract great opportunities." Weeks passed, and life remained difficult. The sisters continued working every day, but they refused to complain. One evening, while sitting outside the cottage, Clara noticed farmers struggling to carry vegetables because their old baskets kept breaking. "I have an idea," she said excitedly. "Mother taught me how to weave baskets when I was little." Bella's eyes brightened. "I remember helping her." Anna nodded. "If we work together after our regular jobs, maybe we can make something people need." That very evening, they gathered reeds from the riverbank and began weaving baskets. Their first baskets looked terrible. Some were crooked, others fell apart before they were finished. When they took them to the market, nobody bought a single one. Many people laughed. "Stick to your old jobs," one customer said. "You'll never become craftsmen." The sisters returned home disappointed. For a few minutes, nobody spoke. Then Daisy quietly picked up another bundle of reeds. "Let's make another one." The others smiled. Night after night, they practiced. Every mistake became a lesson. Every failure became motivation. Within months, their baskets became stronger, lighter, and beautifully designed. People began noticing the quality of their work. Soon customers traveled from nearby villages to buy their baskets. For the first time, the sisters earned more than enough to cover their daily expenses. Instead of spending the extra money, they saved every dollar. Anna believed that small savings created big opportunities. After a year of careful planning, they built a tiny workshop beside their cottage. They bought better tools and improved their designs even further. Their reputation spread farther than they had ever imagined. One day, a shop owner from the nearest city visited the village market. He carefully examined every basket. "I've never seen craftsmanship like this," he said. "I'd like to order 200 baskets." The sisters looked at one another in disbelief. 200 baskets seemed impossible. Still, they accepted the challenge. For weeks, they worked before sunrise and long after sunset. Their hands became sore, their backs ached, but they never argued or blamed each other. Whenever one sister became tired, another encouraged her. When the final basket was completed, they celebrated with homemade soup and fresh bread. The city shop owner kept his promise. Not only did he pay them fairly, but he placed even larger orders. Their small business began growing rapidly. Soon they hired several unemployed villagers to help with production. Anna insisted that every worker receive fair wages. "We know what it's like to struggle," she often said. "We'll never build success by taking advantage of others." As the years passed, the workshop expanded into a large factory that produced handcrafted baskets, furniture, and decorations. The village itself began changing. Families who once had no jobs found stable work. Children returned to school because their parents could now afford books. Small shops opened near the factory. The local economy flourished. Yet despite their success, the sisters continued living modestly. They never forgot the days when they had shared a single loaf of bread. Every Friday, they prepared meals for elderly villagers who lived alone. Every month, they donated school supplies to children whose families could not afford them. People admired them not only because they were successful, but because they remained humble. Then, one terrible autumn, disaster struck. A massive storm swept across the region. Powerful winds destroyed homes, uprooted trees, and flooded fields. The sisters' workshop suffered severe damage. The roof collapsed. Finished products were ruined. Machines stopped working. Many employees feared they had lost their jobs forever. The villagers gathered outside the damaged building, watching silently. Some cried. Others believed everything was over. Anna stood in front of the broken workshop. She took a deep breath. "We built this once," she said. "We can build it again." The next morning, before sunrise, the four sisters arrived carrying shovels, hammers, and hope. Without waiting for help, they began clearing debris. Their determination inspired everyone else. Employees joined them. Neighbors volunteered. Farmers donated wood. Builders offered their skills. Within weeks, the workshop stood stronger than before. The rebuilding process brought the entire community together. One afternoon, a luxurious carriage stopped outside the workshop. An elegant elderly gentleman stepped out. The sisters immediately recognized him. It was the traveler they had welcomed into their home years earlier. But this time, he was dressed in fine clothing. The villagers whispered in surprise. The old traveler smiled warmly. "I suppose it's time I told you the truth," he said. "I own one of the largest trading companies in the country." The sisters stared in amazement. "I often travel in simple clothes," he continued, "because I like meeting people who treat strangers with kindness rather than judging appearances." He looked proudly at the thriving workshop. "When you shared your last meal with me, I knew your hearts were special." He explained that he had quietly recommended their products to merchants across the country. Their success had never been a gift. It had been earned through quality, honesty, and perseverance. "I simply opened a few doors," he said. "You were the ones who walked through them." Then he made them an incredible offer. "I want to help your products reach international markets." The sisters accepted with gratitude. Over the following years, their handcrafted goods were sold in towns, cities, and even other countries. Their company became famous not only for beautiful products but also for treating workers fairly and supporting local communities. Reporters often visited to ask about the secret behind their remarkable journey. Anna always answered the same way. "There is no secret." Bella would continue, "Work harder than your excuses." Clara would add, "Learn from every mistake." Finally, Daisy would smile and say, "Never become so successful that you forget how it feels to struggle." One day, a young girl visited the workshop. "My family is poor," she said shyly. "Sometimes I think I'll never achieve anything." The sisters invited her inside. They showed her the tiny wooden cottage where they had once lived. The walls were old. The roof was still patched. The small table where they had shared simple meals remained exactly as it had years before. "We kept this house because it reminds us where we started," Anna explained. Bella placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. "Being poor is not something to be ashamed of." Clara smiled. "The only thing you should fear is giving up." Daisy handed the girl a small woven basket. "Fill this with dreams," she said. "Then fill your days with hard work. One day, your dreams will no longer fit inside it." The girl left with renewed confidence. Years later, she became a successful business owner herself and often told people that one conversation with four kind sisters had changed her life forever. As time passed, the sisters grew older, but their values never changed. Every year they organized free training programs to teach young people useful skills. They believed knowledge was the greatest gift because it allowed others to build their own future instead of depending on charity. Visitors from around the world came to hear their inspiring story. Some expected to find extraordinary luck behind their success. Instead, they discovered ordinary people who had done extraordinary things through discipline, teamwork, compassion, and persistence. Near the entrance of their factory stood a stone monument with words that every visitor stopped to read. Success begins the moment you refuse to let your circumstances define your future. Children who walked past those words every morning carried them in their hearts. Parents repeated them at dinner tables. Teachers shared the sisters' story in classrooms. Their example became a symbol of hope for anyone facing hardship. The four sisters proved that true success is not measured by wealth alone. It is measured by the lives you improve, the kindness you show when no one is watching, and the courage to keep moving forward when the road is difficult. They began with empty pockets but full hearts, and in the end, they became richer than they had ever imagined, not only in money, but in love, respect, and the lasting difference they made in the world.